Hey guys, what's going on? This is Xenox Gamer here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Beast Mastery Hunter. This is going to be a basic DPS guide. Going to go over glyphs, talents, your priorities, and your rotation, and all that kind of stuff. Just before we start that, I also want to say that I haven't been playing a Hunter nearly as long as I have for my Death Knight or anything like that, but I do have a very good understanding of the class and how it works. But by no means am I a pro hunter. This is just a basic DPS guide to help new hunters or new players that haven't actually played the class or just leveled up to 90 or something like that, just to give them enough information in one video that they don't have to try and search the entire internet for everything that they may need. So we'll get into this really quick. These are the talents that I use. Very simple. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Chimera. Biggest reason is because it lowers the cooldown of Deterrence, which is your only personal cooldown for defense. Silencing Shot, which as of 5.3 is still here, but later on in 5.4 things are going to change. I will do an update on that when that comes out, but that's not going to be for a while. Reason is because this is your only interrupt, very plain and simple. Aspect of the Iron Hawk reduces damage taken by 15%, which is pretty amazing. Any raid damage or anything like that, this definitely helps. And the last three tiers are basically your DPS talents. Now, Dire Beast gives you focus, but also does damage. Fervor can give you 50 focus and then 50 to focus over 10 seconds, but also gives it to your pet as well. But the difference between the two is very small. The only thing is that Dire Beast actually does damage, but gives you less focus. As far as single target abilities go, I would just go with Dire Beast for the most part. Murder Crows is next. This is a 2-minute cooldown. Lasts for 30 seconds. It is a debuff on them. When they're below 20%, reduces the cooldown to 60 seconds, which is pretty nice. But it is very huge amount of damage, especially in shorter fights. And next up we have Glaive Toss. This is just a 15-second cooldown, costs 15 focus, does a kind of like a frontal cone forward and back as it comes in, so positioning yourself in front of more mobs as it goes out and comes back is going to increase the damage. Excuse me. So that is your highest single target ability. As far as AoE goes, I would use Barrage if there's enough adds for something like Horadon or even Tordos or something like that, where there's the bats or something like that, where you can hit a lot of adds with Barrage. I would use that. Glaive Toss is still pretty good for AoE though. It's not nearly as good as Barrage, provided there's enough targets, but either way, this is pretty much a very standard Beast Mastery DPS talents that you go, so other than that, there's not too much differentiation. You can try things like Blink Strikes, which just increases your pet's basic attack by 50%, the damage it does. Typically, if you go Blink Strikes, you're going to want to go Fervor, just because it's going to be giving them more and more focus, which is just very nice. But other than that, if you run with this, it's pretty solid. You're not really running into very much different DPS than anything else. Glyphs, really quick. These are pretty much mandatory standard. Animal Bond increases your healing done to you by 10% while your pet's active. Pretty standard. Glyph of Deterrence reduces damage taken by an additional 20%, which is just nice because realistically, as far as DPS goes, there's nothing in here for you. So your talents are all utility, so you might as well try and be able to absorb as much damage as you possibly can, just from raid damage and stuff like that, things that are just unavoidable. So that's what Animal Bond does. That's what Glyph of Deterrence allows you to do a little bit more. And then Glyph of Disengage is pretty much just increases your the distance you travel, so you can get out of situations a lot farther. The only other one that you should be looking for is Liberation, if you even want to use this, but a 5% total health heal every time you disengage is like not that much, because for the most part you're not going to be disengaging all that often. So that's about it for talents and glyphs. We'll go over some of the gear very quick. Obviously you want to use the highest DPS weapon you possibly have, so the highest item level. There's 3 chances or 4 chances actually for a bow in TOT, so I would definitely recommend saving your coins for those if you're going to be doing that, if you do not already have a bow. This is a huge factor of your DPS because you are an auto attack heavy class, just like a lot of other ones. Your bow is a huge part of your damage. Next would be trinkets, so try and get as high or the best trinkets you possibly can. This one is absolutely ridiculously amazing, and if you get it, I would definitely double upgrading it. But other than that, you want to hit your 7.5% hit cap and your 7.5% expertise soft cap. So as you can see with both of mine, I'm actually quite a bit over both of them, but that's kind of just what gear I have. But for the most part, when you're gearing up or anything like that, as you get more gear, it's going to be easier and easier to get hit and expertise. But at the same time, those are your two priorities. Other than that, you obviously want as much agility as you possibly can get your hands on, and then from there you're going to want crit, haste, and then mastery. Crit being your best stat for a very long time, and then haste right after that. So you want to be reforging away from any excess expertise, hit, or mastery to get your crit and haste as much as you possibly can. Enchants and stuff like that, very quickly you can go to the standard 200 agility, 100 crit the tiger or inscription or whatever the hell it is. 180 crit on the cloak. You can also go 180 hit if you need the hit. Make sure when you're gemming that you're also gemming around your purple gems that give you your 80 agility and 160 hit and anything else you may need. You always want to get to that hit and expertise cap first and then work on your secondary stats after that. 180 agility on the bracers. 170 haste is the best DPS one after you get enough expertise, because you can actually go 170 expertise on gloves. So I did that up until I had enough, and then I switched over the enchant. Make sure you have a belt buckle, put that in with a flat agility or whatever you feel like. Your pants, 285 agility, 165 crit, and then boots is just 140 agility, minor movement speed increase. And then Lord Blastington's Scope of Doom, obvious choice for hunters. But other than that, that's very simple for the gear. Now as far as a DPS rotation goes, you obviously want to be in your aspect of the Iron Hawk, because that is pretty much the only talent you're going to be taking in that tier, which increases your range attack power by 25%. And then you obviously want to have a pet out. Now you want to make sure that your pet is spec'd ferocity. That is the highest DPS for PvE, as this is a PvE guide, and that gives you the greatest boost of damage. Now Heart of the Phoenix is actually pretty cool, so I would recommend putting that on your bar somewhere. As you can see, I'm a huge noob and didn't put it on anywhere. But if your pet does die in an encounter or something like that, you have this cooldown. It is 8 minutes, but you can also just bring your pet back to life, because your pet is a significant amount of your DPS. Now as far as what pet you use, the only thing that matters is what buff you feel like bringing to your raid. If you're in a 10-man or if you're in a 25-man, you're not going to really worry about it. But other than that, for your purpose of DPS, realistically it doesn't matter what pet, provided you get whatever buff you are looking for. You can pretty much bring anything you want. So other than that, just make sure you have a pet out, make sure it's spec ferocity. Good to go. Now as far as a single target rotation, very simple. You want to make sure that you keep Hunter's Mark on your target at all times. This increases your damage against that target by 5%, and that's pretty amazing. You also have a few other abilities that apply that. So as you can see here, Arcane Shot, Chimera Shot, Kill Shot, Explosive Shot, a bunch of stuff like that. Kill Command actually does this as well. So there's a lot of things that will renew this on your target. It does last for 5 minutes, so realistically once you put it up at the start of the fight before combat, you're good to go. Next up we have Kill Command. So we're going to be casting this off cooldown. Every time this thing is off cooldown, you want to put that on cooldown as fast as you possibly can. It does cost 40 focus, it is on a 6-second cooldown. This is your pet that does the ability, so making sure your pet is alive is absolutely mandatory, and making sure that you do the most amount of DPS possible. After that we have Kill Shot. Now you only get to use Kill Shot when the mob is at 20% health or less, but you want to be doing that as often as possible, making sure that you have Kill Command on cooldown when you do so, and in between them, if Kill Command comes off cooldown, you want to be using that. So Kill Command, Kill Shot. Next we have Serpent Sting, so you want to apply that and maintain that uptime as much as you possibly can. Now Cobra Shot, which is your focus generating ability, is a castable shot, 1.78 seconds in my current gear, and that will generate you 14 focus. So that is going to be how you gain focus, along with your haste and any other abilities like Dire Beast or Fervor or whatever you decided to go with. So keeping Serpent Sting on your target, going to be mandatory. It only costs 15 focus, does pretty decent damage for a dot, lasts for 15 seconds, so provided you are just bouncing in and out of Cobra shots here and there, that should maintain 100% uptime. After that we have Glaive Toss. Now this is your tier 6 talent, if you decided to go this, or Barrage, but this is going to be for single target for the most part. So I'm going to be casting this on cooldown as much as you possibly can. And then you have Dire Beast. Now this is going to give you focus, so there's a lot of abilities you want to use this before so that you get that huge focus regen before you do a lot of this stuff, and we'll get into that in a little bit more with the cooldowns, which is the hardest part about playing a BM Hunter, is just managing your abilities, your focus, and your cooldowns all in one. So after that we have Focus Fire. Now your pet will stack something called Frenzy, and at 5 stacks you can use Focus Fire. It gives you 30% haste, ranged haste, sorry, and that's pretty much about it. So whenever this pops up, which you'll see indicating whenever your pet hits 5 frenzy stacks, you want to be using that. And then other than that, if you have excess focus, you want to be using Arcane Shot as much as you possibly can, provided that you have the focus to do so without skipping out on your primary abilities like Kill Command, Glaive Toss, and Kill Shot. And then when you need to gain focus, it's just Cobra Shot. So very basic rotation for the most part, or priority system. But it gets a little tricky when you have certain cooldowns, because you want to be using things before other cooldowns. So as far as your opener goes, because these are all your cooldowns here, if you're an orc or if you have some sort of racial or something like that, you also have another cooldown they have to keep track of. But as far as your opener goes, which is a very important of playing a Beast Mastery Hunter, basically what it's going to look like is you're going to have Rapid Fire and Stampede. You're going to use that right at the very start. You're going to cast Stampede, cast Rapid Fire, because it's going to allow your pets to get more attacks in. After that, it's going to be Bestial Wrath. Then it's going to be Kill Command, a Murder of Crows, Serpent Sting, Dire Beast, Glaive Toss. At this point in time, Kill Command is going to be at about 1 second with coming off cooldown, so you can get a quick Arcane Shot off, do your Kill Command, Readiness, and then you're going to Kill Command again, Glaive Toss, Arcane Shot a few times. Basically what you're doing now is waiting for your first set of cooldowns to come off or to finish, and then you're going to redo that pretty much again. So you're going to cast your Dire Beast before you do Bestial Wrath, because you want to have your Bestial Wrath to be every single global cooldown you have, you want to use that on damage. And then other than that, once you have that up, you want to make sure that you're timing that with Kill Command so that you can get 2 Kill Commands in per Bestial Wrath, and then you're just going to be spamming Arcane Shot during that. Now, Rapid Fire, very quickly, gives you some range chase 40% for 15 seconds. Pretty crazy, 3-minute cooldown. Bestial Wrath causes your pet to do 20% additional damage for 10 seconds, and you do 10% additional damage. It's a passive that you get later on. 1-minute cooldown, things crazy, and it reduces all focus costs by 50%. So this is why you want to be using Bestial Wrath before you use Murder of Crows, only because this costs so much focus, so it's going to reduce that to 30. And you want to be using Dire Beast before Bestial Wrath, because you're going to be getting all that focus so that you can just dump it as much as you possibly can. Now this is something that you're going to have to practice a little bit, and it does take a little bit of time to get used to that. In this opener, you're obviously going to want to pre-pot just before combat starts or something like that. But it's very simple to do. So basically this is what it's going to look like. So there he is. Boom. So we still have Bestial Wrath off cooldown. Glaive Toss. Do this. And this is pretty much your opener. Very easy to do. Just takes a little bit of practice once you get it. And then, yeah. So Serpent Sting will fall off during this, but don't be worried about that, because it's just going to be manually applied anyway. Your whole point is to get as many arcane shots and stuff like that during your opener. So you can see like our burst just on a dummy with no food, no whatever, no raid bus and stuff like that. I mean, like, you're bursting up to 200 plus K. With hero on some fights I'm getting up to 300 or more with my current gear. And there's your focus fire proc from that. So other than that, the basic concept is to just keep kill command on cooldown as much as you possibly can. Keep glaive toss on cooldown as much as you possibly can, and using your cooldowns and stacking them as efficiently as you can do so. Now, right now, even though Beast Wrath is going to be coming up, I want to use that right when kill command comes off cooldown because it doesn't last all that long, and I want to make sure that I can get a second Beast Wrath or kill command during my Beast Wrath. So that's going to help increase your damage as well. Now, other than that, that's pretty much about it. I can put up the opener and stuff like that just on the screen here, so instead of you just listening to me do it, you can see it there. You can just pause the video and stuff like that. I'll put that up just because it might be a little bit easier to have that while you're trying to practice your rotation. But other than that, that's pretty much about it. It's very basic, very standard. Just make sure that you're keeping your abilities on cooldown as much as you possibly can, and once readiness comes off cooldown later on in the fight, you want to be using your second potion, going through all your abilities again, and then your burst is just pretty insane. That is a very basic DPS guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from this, hopefully. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. If you want to like, comment, rate, subscribe, whatever, if that's what you want to do, that's fine, that's good. But other than that, see you guys in the next video. Take care.